Greetings from a Zurich that doesn't quite know what the season is. One day it's glorious spring, the next it could be, well, snow. But today it's decided on spring sunshine. I've been watching my tulips open and then follow the sun across the garden. The frogs are back in the ponds and hard at work at procreating, making a shocking racket. Apart from the rotten old hay fever, all is well with the world. At least for me. As you probably know by now, the Little Marvels haiku anthology, which Poetry P Press publishes, will be all about belonging and alienation this year. Do you want to be in it? No guarantees, of course, but as long as you're on the mailing list, you'll receive an invitation. If not, I'm afraid you'll definitely not have your haiku in what is becoming a leading poetry press publication. You do have time to make sure that your name is on the mailing list, and you can sign up on the website. Today I'm talking to the Israeli poet, Roman Lyakhovetsky. You know, even good friends have trouble with surnames, as you're about to hear. Poetry P is not a political operation. As you know, I do my best to avoid the political. I guess it does have a place in poetry, but not here. However, when I heard about October the 7th, my first thoughts were with Roman, hoping that he was not caught up in it. As you're about to hear, I was left worrying for a little while. When we were able to catch up, I had a chat with him about belonging and alienation. And as a result, I asked him if he wouldn't mind coming onto the podcast to chat with me and inspire you with his work. So without further ado, let's go and hear Roman read to us and learn a little bit about his adopted country and the life there. Roman, I always see your surname and think I'm never going to get that right. Can you please pronounce it for us so we know how it's pronounced?
Thank you, Patricia. It's actually Roman Lyakhovetsky, and I'm struggling with it myself, so completely understandable.
I'm never going to get it. Thank you for doing that for me. At least we know how it's meant to be pronounced now.
Yeah, sure. Let's get past this embarrassing bit.
Yes, let's move on. I thought Roman's story would and his poetry would be interesting for us to inspire us to write for the next Poetry P anthology, Little Marvels, which, as you know, is on the theme of belonging and alienation. So, Roman, lovely to see you as always. We see each other most months. We had a little correspondence about today, and you wrote something absolutely spiffing, bang on, to get us going. So I'm going to ask you to tell us what it was that you wrote to me.
Thank you, Patricia, again. So, when I'm thinking about belonging, first I think about English not being my native language. And when I stumble upon a new word, I usually try to break it apart to understand it better. And belonging is like belong. So I thought, okay, belong somewhere or sometime. And for me, it means that belonging, it's to be somewhere long enough time to feel like you're actually belonging there. And in my case, it's true. I'm living in Israel for 34 years now. And I came in 1991. When you talk about belonging in terms of immigrating to Israel, there are 2 points. We actually do not call the process of moving to Israel immigrating to Israel. We call it something like ascending, because from spiritual point of view, it's similar to what is said in our religious books, that when Jews received Torah at Mount of Sinai, actually all the generations of Jews, past, present, and future, stood there as one people and received the Torah together. similarly thinking about it. We do not just move to Israel, we ascend to Israel. And this is called repatriation or aliyah in Hebrew. And the ascendants are called olim. So we weren't called immigrants, we were called olim. And this process, or how I describe it, it may sound poetic, but actually it has its downside because the belonging in this case always go together with alienation. And that's because first years in Israel were pretty difficult for us because each wave of olim, of new immigrants that come to Israel, face some alienation from people who are already living there. In my case, it was even more difficult because I came as a teenager. So, in addition to the natural teenage crisis that I had, I also had to get used to new country, new customs, new people, new language, what name you. And it was hard, but I had several, I think, periods in my life where the belonging was encouraged, and I embraced that. First of all, being the education in school, then army service, and finally the higher education and university, where I was able to live with local people in the same room, celebrate the same holidays, to talk about the same issues that we all faced. So it pretty much helped to feel or start feeling belonging in this place.
It's interesting what you said. You said you sort of suggested that there were waves of immigration or immigrants, olim, I guess.
Olim, yes.
Yeah, waves of olim. So you came in the 1990s, the 1991. Was that a period when there were a number of Russian olim?
Well, actually, it was a great amount because this was the time of when the Iron Curtain was
Yeah,
lifted,
yeah,
and
yeah.
many people came, close to a million, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was a large wave.
Yeah, it was. Were you in the beginning or I can't
Um,
remember the dates when the Iron
I think
Curtain
it was
came.
kind of in the middle because
Okay.
it started in, I believe, 87, 88,
Okay.
and it continued into well into 90s. I mean,
Mm.
it continues to this day, but the reasons are different.
I find what you said really interesting. The different words you use for immigrant and immigration, the aliyah. Never heard them before. That was really interesting. Thank you. And what I wanted to know from you, Roman, what were the what are the differences between Russia and Israel?
Well, talking about this, you have to take in mind to keep in mind that I came as a teenager. As I said, I was 14, and now I'm 48, so I remember very little. I mean, I remember my childhood, and I remember that these countries are very different, but I actually started writing poetry already way into my living in Israel. I didn't write in Russia.
Mhm.
And so I use my experiences from Russia only as memories, mostly.
So you don't write much about those memories?
No,
No. Okay.
no. At
That's
least I don't
interesting.
see it this way. Maybe something subconscious gets in, but not intentional.
Okay. So how about telling us a little bit about Israel, life in Israel through your poetry, Roman? Would you do that for us?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with desert sunrise. Smell of rain outlives the rain. Desert sunrise. Smell of rain outlives the rain. Spring knocking raindrops off the olive branch. Spring knocking raindrops off the olive branch. Desert ruins. Hawk's feather chasing a dust devil. Desert ruins. Hawk's feather chasing a dust devil. Roadside minyan. Heavy bunches of dates swaying in the wind. Roadside minyan. heavy bunches of dates swaying in the wind.
So, Roman, can you tell us what is a minyan?
So minyan is a kind of religious congregation of or group of 10 Jews which are praying like a community prayer.
Mm-hmm.
It says that in religious books, it says that praying in community is what people generally should do. So minyan is like a unit of community praying together, 10 people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. More knowledge I didn't have. Thank you.
Crusader ruins. A blue dragonfly grips a reed stalk. Crusader ruins. A blue dragonfly grips a reed stalk. Highway mirage. A camel wanders by a sea level marker. Highway mirage. A camel wanders by a sea level marker. And here the sea level marker is actually about Dead Sea, because Dead Sea is the lowest place on earth. And on the road to Dead Sea from Jerusalem, from time to time, you have these sea level markers that tell you now we are like 100 meters below sea level. Then we are 400 meters below sea level. And finally, when you get to Dead Sea, there is no marker, but it actually 800 meters below sea level. So
Oh, wow. That's that's fascinating. I tell you, the Dead Sea is somewhere I really, really would like to go.
you should
I
definitely.
know, I know. But there are so many places actually I'd love to go, but that is, I would love to see that. Thank you very much again for increasing my knowledge, Roman. Thank you.
Yellow wind, fox pup nipping on a camonet. Yellow wind, fox pup nipping on a camonet. And it's really inspired both by my military period, but also by everyday life, because riding on a highway, you can easily see like pieces of camonets. Sometimes animals sleep on it. So I admit it was partially imaginative because I didn't see this pup, but it could easily be happening at night. So I took the poetic liberty to to write about it.
I think it's a lovely image. It's a really, really lovely image. And then there's another one that intrigues me. I wasn't sure if it was military inspired or maybe religious inspiration. The poem that starts
Mm.
whispering.
Whispering names of the fallen, hillside pines. Whispering names of the fallen, hillside pines. So this actually this is it's not directly inspired by most recent events in the country, but it's something that is very present. We lose our soldiers, and this is happening all the time. So it's a very present image, I would say, and it is even more relevant in since the 7th of October. So
Yeah, absolutely. Now you have a poem that was published in Frog Pond that I can't pronounce. We've already established I can't I can't
okay.
pronounce it. But to me, it's a fascinating one because again, this is maybe not a daily occurrence in Israel, but well, read it to us and tell us a little bit about it.
Tseva Adom, the glow of ceiling stars. Tseva Adom, the glow of ceiling stars. This is, well, first part, Tseva Adom is a wording of an alarm. When rockets are being fired at us, we receive this alarm of Tseva Adom, Tseva Adom. And I thought that the juxtaposition of Tseva Adom, which is in Hebrew, it literally means red color. The juxtaposition of this red color and the glowing of ceiling stars in kids' room is something that, for me, it's very vivid image of what we are going through
Mhm.
frequently. So
when I read it, actually, I didn't immediately go to the kids' room with the ceiling stars. I mean that's a very, as you say, it's very obvious. It's glow of ceiling stars. You would normally see them in a child's room. My kids had them when they were young. But maybe because of what's been going on most recently, and Israel has featured on the news a lot, it took me to the defense mechanism that you have. I don't fully understand it. I'm not scientific, but you're able to block out most of the incoming rockets. And I wondered if perhaps the glow of ceiling stars was something like what you would see in on such an occasion.
Actually, we are not allowed so much to look outside when it happens, so
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know what to tell you. But there are certainly photos that are being made by
Mm,
people, so it can be perceived in this way. Yeah.
mm-hmm. Okay.
But I was not thinking about it when I wrote it.
No.
No.
Okay, that's fair enough. It's just where my imagination took me. But that's the joy of this type of poetry that we write, that, you give us enough space as a poet to go in certain directions. Hopefully not so
Yes.
much space that you go off in a totally wild way, but anyway, that's where that one took me. And, we're not a political organization here at Poetry P, but you were in Israel. Well, you weren't in Israel, actually. You had, I think, a sort of semi-terrifying experience that you were traveling when October the 7th took place. Um, and you couldn't immediately get back to your
Yeah.
family. It took you a while, which I can't imagine the stress of being away from your family on an occasion like that. And when we were chatting some time ago, much closer to when this happened, I said to you, as an immigrant, how does that make you feel? Or as not as a, no, we have a new word, don't we? As an olim,
Ole.
okay.
Olim plural.
Oh, you're just making life difficult for me.
Yeah.
I asked you, how would it make you feel? Do you feel like leaving when this sort of thing happens? Or does it make you even more a part of the community when this sort of thing happens?
Well, I remember that indeed, as you said, I was on ending my business trip on 7th of October. It was Saturday when it happened. It was very early in the morning. I was packing my bags to go to the airport in some hours, and suddenly these push notifications started coming, one after the other, one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
So I was so shocked that I unpacked my laptop, I turned it on, and I started to watch the live TV.
Mm-hmm.
It was indeed very shocking, but at no point I thought or felt something like taking everything and leaving. No, and moreover, in the year and a half that passed since, it was never been a thought at once. Actually, it did made me more part of the community than I was ever before, because I think that when you face hardship or hard situation together with people around you, you become attached more to what's going on, and it helped. I mean, it helped me to feel myself attached to the country, and as a like a curiosity. I was not very interested, for example, in Israeli music up to
Mm-hmm.
this point, but since then I'm interested in it much more. I find or open myself to new experiences in that regard, and also Israeli literature. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it was part of the experience, something
Okay.
that made me to be more connected to what's going on around me in the
Um,
country.
as regards Israeli literature, you'll have to send me some ideas of what you're enjoying, and maybe I can have a read too. Because
Well, there are
hopefully,
many translations, so
I
of
was going to
course,
say there'll be
yeah.
translations into English. Taking that further, you can't help but be affected by what happened in your country at that time. And I think you wrote, for me anyway, there were two pieces that affected me. when I read them. One was in Five Fleas and the other one was in Blithe Spirit. I wondered if you'd read those to us.
Thank you for the opportunity. First is from Blessed Spirit. Jerusalem as ever beyond the narrative's war. Jerusalem as ever beyond the narrative's war. And second is from Five Fleas. Void context screaming out of burned down kibbutz. Void contexts screaming out of burned down kibbutz.
That one in particular is very, very powerful, I think.
Thank you.
I mean, I can feel myself getting very anxious just talking to you about it now. So I thought what we'd probably end with, if you don't mind, is something, one of the poems that you wrote, which was in modern haiku, which to me speaks of people trying to live in peace. And maybe you can tell us a bit about that when you've read it.
Well, this was a roadside experience. I stopped at some gas station and saw the scene, so it was for me very inspiring. Desert gas station. A driver and a hitcher share prayer rug. Desert gas station. A driver and a hitcher share prayer rug.
Brilliant. That is a lovely positive idea and notion and image to finish on today. Thank you, Roman. Thank you very much for coming along, for talking about your experience, for how you belong, how you maybe sometimes felt alienated. And I can't imagine being a teenager and having to move country, leave your friends behind, enter a new country. I guess language-wise, you had to pick up a new language. Did you?
Yes.
Yeah. So you've got that, the whole scenario must have been a nightmare for a teenager. And for your mum. I do pity your mum because you probably played up something shocking, I imagine, as a teenager. Um, being a mum to a teenager is bad enough. I mean, you've got kids too, so you probably know this, but without having all that
They are
extra,
teenagers, yeah.
it's a joy. Anyway, thank you so much for coming along and sharing all that with us. I'm so grateful, really. And I'll see you soon, Roman. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and read some poems of mine here. Thank you.
It was great. It was a great learning experience and terrific poetry experience too. I'm so pleased you came and did this for us. Thank you. My sincere thanks to Roman for coming along, reading us his poetry, and giving us an insight into his life in Israel, how it was to arrive there as a teenager and to grow into his adopted country. I hope, like me, you enjoyed the poetry and learnt a little something. Thank you for coming along and listening. Your mission, should you care to accept it, is to make sure you're on the mailing list and so will receive an invitation to submit to the next Little Marvels anthology. Make sure you've submitted to whatever it is we're reading at the moment. If you're listening to this when it's published, you have until the 15th of April 2025 to get your death awareness haiku and tanka over to us. And of course, you absolutely must submit to the poetry video prompt on YouTube. If you're late to the party, simply check the drop-down menu at submissions on the website. Please also consider becoming a member of Poetry P to support the work we do here. Or purchase one of our publications, and then again, maybe just buy us a coffee. I can't continue without your help. Last, definitely not least, whatever you do until we meet again, keep writing. Oh, and you can check out the show notes for a copy of Roman's poetry. Ciao!